today, my speed caught up to me. I don't know if you guys realize this, but like I seem to move fast. Do you remember back in the day, did they have the silver bullet, or that was gone when you showed up, wasn't it?
I remember hearing about it because you would ride your
full context. There was a double wide trailer that
Yeah.
was my office in the back of the Third Church parking lot, and I got tired of like having to like walk the whole parking lot, so I bought a scooter so I could. So like just there's something about me that I just. So I came running down the stairs, and first time ever, like, just smoked my head on the archway that when you're coming down, laid out. Just what is it about like hitting the top of your head? There's probably some people who've never
been tall enough personally, so,
right?
yeah.
But like every once in a while, there's a staircase in our house that like if I'm not when I'm going. Marty. I don't know is that a real speed?
It is now.
Like, dude, I'm just laying there. And my wife says, so is this one of those you need a minute or are we in trouble? I'm like,
yep.
When I was a kid, I jumped down our long flight of stairs and hit my head on that. Like about 2/3 of the way down, hit my head, and the body went under.
Back, yeah.
Yeah, you're little. Back then, you could take anything.
Good old injury stories. I love injury stories. The favorite injury story that gets told every Thanksgiving at our house. We have the annual turkey bowl. This is straight up 2-hand touch, sometimes tackle if it's snow. Minnesota. This year there's 36 of us doing Thanksgiving. It's my cousins, my aunt, my brother's in-laws family, like all the kids, like there's someone's boyfriend's niece that comes. I mean, it's just this. And so then we go out and we play 2-hand touch, and my younger brother, Jaron, threw a dime. And this is about 4 or 5 years old story. This is the Thanksgiving after I had a kidney stone. I
remember that.
That was, I'm like, I'm dying. Jenny said watching me have that kidney stone made her go like, that's probably worse than childbirth. It's a fact. It's a fact now because she's had that.
You probably don't remember the text I sent you during that time.
No,
I said, it'll be okay. This too shall pass.
Okay. So like I just got done with that Thanksgiving. And then the next Thanksgiving, my brother throws this ball and I'm like full on sprinting, looking at that ball, and it's coming into my hands. And there is a city landmark post, like identification of where yards and properties. And I ran so hard into this thing, it bends over and whips me back into the ground, like just full on. And it's still traumatic for my younger brother to talk about because he thought I died. The laceration bruise was about a month and a half. Just this like, oh man. The turkey bowl though, love it. Thanksgiving, favorite holiday. Wow. Hands down.
All the family, no gifts.
All the family.
Wow, yeah. See, that's not what I would go for, but
really?
Yeah, it's great.
4th of July.
It's good for you.
Flag Day.
Yeah, yep. Both good ones.
Valentine's Day. Like, no, but Thanksgiving, like it's food, football, family. Like I love it. I hate turkey. Turkey's the worst. Garbage.
Very overrated.
We have a ham and turkey.
I had this conversation with my brother the other day. Like, there's about 10 meats that are better than turkey. Why don't you just have those?
That's impressive. Yeah.
Like all of a pig.
Yeah.
Right.
Some fish,
some brisket.
Yeah.
Some
salmon.
fish.
He actually said he goes, I'd rather have salmon
100%.
than turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey's so good. So good. Just got back from Asheville, North Carolina a couple weeks ago. Get this. This is today's topic. So excited. They're doing this series called Binge the Bible. It's kind of Netflix designed. A friend of mine, Jeff Capusta, and another friend of mine, Dean Herman, like they are kind of like the creators of this whole series thing. And I'm just, we haven't done it yet. I could really get excited about teaching the Bible. But so pastor friend, John Mark Redwine in Asheville.
It's a great name.
It is such a great name. And he's straight up hick.
Yeah.
Like it's so fun. I love them. And we just had a team come back from serving down there, and we're working on another opportunity to serve down there. But so they're in Binge the Bible, and he's like, hey, the Sunday you're up, I don't know, could you teach about Ezra? I'm like, are you kidding me? Just all the things. And Ezra, the rebuild, repair, restore, right? Like this whole thing. Chapter 5, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever really taught this. Ezra chapters 1, 2, and 3 are chronological with 5, 6, and 7. And for some reason, chapter 4, it's just like a future event that they just drop in the middle of the story. Anyways, chapter 5, it references Haggai and Zechariah. Zechariah, hardest book in the Bible. Harder than Revelation for me. I don't get it. But Haggai, it's a couple of chapters book, and get this, it's a year-end review in my brain. In this book, he's talking to the people of Israel, and he says, hey, you just came back from wherever you were, and you got all excited about God, and then like, I don't know what happened, but then you started to only care about you, and so then there's 5 times he says the word consider. And what I want to invite our conversation into is like, what's it look like to consider where we've been, where we are, and where we're going? And for me, this is like, I don't know, I do this for like 6-8 weeks. Like I just love reflecting. This is something we talk about as a staff. And so what I want to do is I want to give you the 5 considers of Haggai, and then we're just going to kind of break it down. Like, how could we do this? And then we'll go from there. So the first thing that Haggai, he basically says, consider, how are things going? And he answers the question. They're working, nothing to show for it. They're making money, holes in their wallets. There's like seed going in the ground and less comes out. And so he's like, how are things going? And then he's like, okay, are things in order? Have you ever considered, are things in order? And basically he says, you forgot first things first.
Yeah.
So then there's like time passes, and he's like, hey, how are things going with first things first? So they must have made an adjustment, right? And so he's like, consider, like, how's it going with God first? And the result would be like, it's better. And then he's like, how do you think it would work to keep moving forward like this? And how do you think that'll play out? And so for Marty, this is just something I do. I love to reflect on how are things going? How are things going? As a staff, we kind of have a version of this. It's a staff core value called RPMs. Like, what is that for you guys? Like, what like, that's kind of our wheelhouse of how we, I think, take a temperature on our being. Want to flesh out RPMs.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we've done for probably close to a decade as a staff, of like looking at the dashboard of your life, and you're looking at the RPMs of like, are we redlining? Like, how are we doing? With, it's an acronym, as you always,
acronym?
Yep, as you always teach us. And so it is easy to remember, though, like that helps. So RPMs, and then you also add E and F because there's a gas gauge on your dashboard. So R, how are you doing relationally? P, how are you doing physically? M, how are you doing mentally? S, how are you doing spiritually? And E and F is, how's your energy and how's your finances? And so usually we like pick a number between 1 and 10 and then say, is it trending up? Is it trending down? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse?
It sounds like a lot, right?
It is a lot, but it's good. It's comprehensive, I think.
Yeah. You ever notice on RPMs, when you get to the spiritual, people can pretty much guess based on how you've been doing.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like holistic over. That when you're doing well spiritually, it probably goes hand in hand with some disciplines of your relationships and your health. And
and I think all of it is spiritual.
Yeah, like, for sure.
And yet there are habits that have a little bit more of a connection relationship to the Lord. And so I think the relationship dynamic with, for me, Jenny, or with the staff, things like that, there's that. But you're right. Like, how am I doing with the Lord? Probably is impacting that. When someone's seeing this, okay, like hopefully we'll have a link, RPMs, EF. You said you give it a number. How do you process, like, how are you doing relationally? Like 4, 9, what things are going through your mind in evaluating if it's well or not well.
Yeah, I kind of go through the whole categories of relationships. So first would be with my wife. Like I kind of look at that bucket, and then look at kids, and then look at extended family, look at friends, look at relationships in the church, and then through a very not definite process, kind of put all those together and figure out a number. But just, how I'm feeling filled up in relationships, how much I'm pouring out, how connected I feel, how lonely I feel, just kind of things
so loneliness, or what was the other one you
connected.
Connected.
Yeah.
How about you? Is there a way where you're like, how do I process how I'm doing with others?
Yeah, I think some of the same questions. Like, when's the last time I've spent time with friends? When's the last time I've been in a community where like I can be honest and real? And but the same kind of questions, like how, all right, especially with your family. For those of us that have families, you can get into function mode pretty quick.
Yeah.
And like, have we stepped back to look at the big picture? Have we stepped back to have, special moments?
For sure. For sure. One of the things that I love in our context is the language of 2 a.m. friend.
Yeah.
Right. And so just even is there been touch points with the people that I like, that I can just be me with? I tend to linger in being me everywhere, which sometimes could maybe get me in trouble. But so then P is the physical, like, and so consider, how are things going physically? This is a different one for me. Like, it used to be like closely attached to goals or achievement for me physically. Like, how many miles did I run? Can I do I do these push-up challenges every once in a while. Like every day of the month, I'm going to do that many push-ups. So like on the 4th day of the month, I'm going to do 4 push-ups. I think I've gotten to 20 like twice ever, like consistently. Yep. But I try things physically. I'm being reminded more and more though. I'm getting older, and I'm less driven by achievement. I'm more driven by like, just am I being kind with my sleep? Am I being am I being wise with my food? It used to be endurance and exercise and things like that. I don't know, like that's just been a slight shift because running's hard now. It's actually always been hard.
I was laughing with somebody about, you get old enough, you're old when walking is considered exercise.
Man, there is this
walking.
Every step you take over, I think it's 4,000, is exponential longevity to your life. Like the wheelhouse is like, man, 7,000, you're doing really well. 7,000 steps. That's why I don't wear a watch. I get too addicted to that, and I'm like, how am I doing? So I don't wear a watch. But physically is one, but then that's different than mentally. So what are some gauges that you kind of, Haggai says, consider how are things going? How do you consider how you're doing mentally? Because if you talk to me today and you talk to me right now, and then you talk to me, 3 hours ago, and then in 3 hours, like my mental state, I feel like could maybe oscillate. So how do you hold, how am I doing mentally without it being just this one moment?
Yeah, I think a couple categories that come to mind for me quick is just how have my moods been? Have I been carrying joy? Am I lighthearted? And then another category is more like, am I learning? So am I sharpening my mind? Am I reading books? Am I listening to things? Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. Yeah. This is the hardest one for me to nail down, just because, I think about it that way. What am I intaking? Like podcast, book wise?
Podcast. I heard there's the Something Different podcast. Intake that bad boy.
Yep. You guys are doing great.
Plunge. Or, no, not plug. Plunge. Sorry.
Plunge in.
Cold plunge. Yeah.
Here we go.
Ooh.
But yeah, like what you said too is like, it's not mindset, but how are you doing with your emotions does kind of feel like that's a barometer, like for where you're at.
And it's that time of year. Like seasonal
affective
disorder.
disorder.
Is real. And
man, it's cold.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Yep.
And so how do you fight for the mental thing is, I think, something worth chatting about, considering. But like right now we're just considering the measurement of where we've been and where we are kind of thing. Spiritually, like for me, this is often prayer, engagement with God's word. I think for others, it could be like, am I consistent in going to church? Like, do I have a regular rhythm of meeting with people where there's a place of worship. I think small group seasons is another angle on spiritual energy. This one really is sleep for me as well. There's a lot of drag in leadership where you're like things just come, and so for me there's got to be a place where I can put things in shelf, because I can't wear it all the time. It just slows me down, and I just think like from an energy level I have to take stock. What's wearing me out? And sometimes it's a who's wearing me out, and then I have to go like, well, is that on me or is that on them? Is that on the circumstance? What can I do about that? Recognizing like that most people will tell you they're tired or frustrated. And the question is, do you know why you're tired? And do you know why you're frustrated? Because I think there's actually more we could do, and just, you have a choice to be mad about that, address it, change your mind, let it go. But that requires work. And like, oh, I'm too tired to, like, I just say, man, you can fight for an attitude of more energy and positivity.
Do you ever know anybody who will decide that they're just too tired because of how many hours of sleep? I have a brother. He'll never listen to this, but he's like, I only got
I have
6
two
hours.
brothers. They'll never listen to it.
He's like, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night, so I'm automatically tired, and that has to be the way it is. There's no choice but to act tired all day long.
No, that I say that's wrong. Finances. There are just moments and seasons where I think the financial burdens increase, and that can actually impact how you're doing. And so that's honestly where Haggai meets the people of Israel. They're kind of frustrated. They're like, God, we're showing up, we're doing our things. Like, what in the world? And he's like, yeah, but like the order is off. And he challenges them by just basically, are things in order? So full context of Haggai, they return from exile. They build an altar. They have this like, whoa, and then they're like, we should go work on our houses, which kind of makes sense. And then they just like leave. It's the place of worship was started but never finished. And because it wasn't finished, it didn't create a place for people to gather. And because people didn't gather, then the offerings weren't being made to God. It was kind of like, well, where are we going to go with that? Like, and so God kind of sends Haggai like as a shout out, like, hey, how'd that going? And they're like convicted, which I love, because previously all the other prophets, they're like, hey, you got it wrong. And they're like, we don't care. And this time they care. And a span of time passes, and Zerubbabel, great name, he actually leads the charge, and they finish the temple. Wild, they celebrate, but people who saw the temple that was destroyed cry. Ain't like it used to be. And I think there's a tension with like, it isn't always going to be. And so even in considering just like what's changed is a good thing to do at the end of the year. I'm working on some reflections. I want to just share a little bit more of my reflections. And so things I've learned since Toby's been gone, like what's that been like? And what's changed and what hasn't changed. And so I'll share that sometime. Well, I went through like, what do I miss? What do I don't miss? Because I don't miss his feet. They smell so bad.
Off to college for the first year, freshman college.
Yeah, thanks for helping get the context. But like, having him gone, it's changed a lot of my RPMs.
Yeah,
it's changed my E and F, right? Like and so recognize that. Okay, well now, only 4 hours of sleep. Like, he's who I would play pickleball with or tennis with. He's who I would chat in the car with. Like, he's who. There's leftovers now in our house. Like, I mean, like this is, so there's some wins, but so I think every year you would be wise to have these moments where like, how's this year been? What's in order? What's not in order? And so we actually have a resource that we do as a staff. The language for it is remember, reflect, and resolve. And one of the things that I think post Thanksgiving, what's really helpful is yes, there's a remembering of like, where did I struggle or what did I lose? But like, man, there is something powerful about how far did we come? what am I grateful for? There's research that couples that consistently express gratitude have a happier marriage. And just so learning the art of just saying thank you. I love that. That was fun. Appreciate, moves the dial of your marriage. And so I think it moves the dial of whatever room you walk into.
Yeah.
There's a room of do you see me? And there's a room of I see you and I'm glad you're here. And I love that you guys, like that kind of thing. And so remember, like we're just kind of sharing a little about that. But then there's also at some point, remembering the events, but then reflecting on them. So we're kind of coupling those two together. So Jenny, we got this thing we do called the best of date. And what's the best song we listened to? What's the best movie we saw? But then it's moved to like, what's the best kid quote? What's the best picture we took? What's the best meal we had? And you're reflecting on that. But then the things that really have moved the dial is, what was your biggest faith step this year? Right? Like that for us has just, whoa. And like, we just kind of go through it and we'll share that. And as we get to the end, then we go, if you were to name the year, what word would you put to it? How would you name it? I know a lot of people, and I'm working on this. They name the year ahead, and I'm not opposed to that. You have no idea what's coming. You have no idea what's coming. And I have found it's more benefit to be able to archive where I've been, because that becomes the place I'm standing and can actually move forward from. Yeah. So in years past, Jenny, we've had the year of not yet. We've had the year of travel. We've had the year of Jubilee. It was a wild year, and like it was like, what happened? And we call it the year of Jubilee. And so in these next this next week, we're like, I got my word. We each kind of work on it, and so I have my word, she'll have her word, and then we usually try to find another word. We remember what's happened, and then we reflect on it. Do you guys have anything that you naturally reminisce about? Do you go through any kind of conversations or personal journeys that help you remember or reflect?
You had mentioned previously. You mentioned the idea of looking through your photos and sharing your favorite photos. Yeah. Becky and I were talking about that, so we're gonna do a time where we get together and do that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, we've done that best of date for a few years now, and yeah, it's good. Like the pictures is always fun, and you've talked about like favorite house improvement of like, you just like, it's just good to look back and see like, yeah, I don't know. I think probably most of us are kind of like trailblaze, like we're always looking forward, but you look back and then you realize how far you've come and what foundation has been laid in just like a year. It's crazy. Like, I think you've said like you kind of overestimate how much you can get done in a day or a week or a month, but you underestimate like a year or years what can happen. Mm-hmm. It is really cool to look back and see how faithful God's been, how far you've come.
Yeah. So I want to encourage you. Like, there's a couple of links here. There's a best of Angie Allgood. She's the best. She's the best. California Chill. That's my nickname for her.
Best of, yeah.
Yeah. And she said she has a college friend that they get together. Yeah. They do the best of together kind of thing. So for those of you who are like, hey, I'm single, I guess this doesn't, like, what? No. Yeah. You got 2 a.m. friend. You got people in your life. Like, I would highly encourage you, create a rhythm of, this is just something. The Lord is the creator of seasons. He is the creator of times. And one of the reasons he does that is so that we can understand renewal. We can understand his mercy is new every day. He wants us to understand the times. There's who are the
sons of Issachar?
Sons of Issachar. Yeah, that's in the Bible somewhere. But they studied and understood the times that they were living. And I think that the Lord does not want us to move through in mundane and normal. I think he's calling us to reflect and recognize what he's doing, where he's been and where he's going. And so there's a third element in one of the resources we're going to give you, this year-end review. Remember, reflect, but then resolve. And I think it's good to kind of piece together, where could I be in a year? Where could I use some adjustment? In the book of Haggai, how could I put things in order? Like, if I had my choice of things in order, what would that mean? What does that mean financially? What does that mean for just in light of my relationships? How do I get some of this in order? And I would say, and this is going to be a theme for all of 2025. Don't take on more than like small consistency over time is way better than big, massive moves, right? But is there something you can kind of press down, and is there something you can lean into? What was you at a recent staff huddle? Your son has a 3D printing.
Yeah, 3D printer, and so there's a different little fidget toys you can 3D print. The design's there, and so one of them was like
I would have been a disaster with a 3D.
You can create a lot of things that have movement because it can use like a coil back and forth as a spring, and so when you press one down, it shoots the other up.
Yeah,
and then back and forth.
Yeah, and you were sharing that like kind of in our huddle, and I was like, oh man, that sounds like basically a rhythm of I'm going to resist the flesh so I can tune into the spirit. That sounds like I'm going to say no to something so I can say yes to something. Yep. In 2025, I would ask you, what's one thing I can go, I'm gonna put a lid on this. It could be I'm gonna be done with social media at 9 p.m. It could be I'm going to create an actual bedtime. It could be I'm going to say no to a certain TV show. I'm gonna say no to whatever. And not all of them have to be bad, but it's so that you have a space, availability, and opportunity to say yes to something. And so I would encourage some of you, if you're looking at your finances, you're like, hey, you're going to say no to some personal spending so you can say yes to honoring God. You're going to say no to one thing so that you can say yes to something else. And I love that in January, we start a season of prayer and fasting. And fasting is I'm saying no to something, and prayer is saying I'm tapping into something. And I just think this is big. I think there's another aspect to resolve of just like, for me, I'm a goal setter. We can talk about that another time. But like, yeah, God's got dreams for you that he wants to unlock and you to walk into. And so he's a God of journey, not of destination. And I just want to invite you in. What's the journey been, and where's the journey going? Any other thoughts on this idea of like year in review, consider?
We, as a staff, have just read through the book, Practicing the Way. And so I'm going back through a video curriculum, and it's talking about what you give your attention to is who you become. Yeah. And then the reality of that, a lot of like, we all want to become people. We want to become better. But a lot of what we do is unintentional formation. And so as you think about what you cut out and what you add in, like you're being intentional about who you want to become. But it's so easy.
Let me grab that.
So easy to be unintentional.
We used to be a agrarian society, and then you become a industrial society. I can't prove it, but I feel like we are in an entertainment society. Yeah, we're an entertainment society. The word of entertainment is derivative connected to amusement. Muse means non-think. So just think about this. Like, we used to be getting our hands in the soil and dirt and grow and time, and now we want instant entertainment. I want access immediately to not have to think.
Yep. Yeah.
And I would just say the beauty of Christianity is actually we want you to think. We want it. And so I like how you were just kind of even like tipping your hat towards like you're going to become someone. Have you considered who you want to become? Have you considered who you want? Any last?
Yeah, no, I'm just bringing to mind the lowest slat analogy that I'm pretty sure is good. Yeah, I don't know if you've used that on this podcast before, but
let's go with it. Imagine the old school wooden bucket. You've got 3 or 2 metal rings, and there's wooden slats. You can only hold water to the lowest slat. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm just like, I don't know, as you talk about the things that pop, like pressing something down so something can lift is like, I don't know. We're sharing a lot of resources here, and it's like a lot of different options, but just like, if you look at your life, like what's the one area that you want to raise? Like, is it your marriage, and you just like, you need more spiritual leadership in your home, or
I think you could even apply that to the RPMs.
Yeah.
Each of your RPMs
for
lowest.
Sure. Yeah. But just take that one, like what's the one thing that if you fixed it, it would make the biggest difference.
Yeah. So that's our encouragement. Fired up, spend some time, leave a comment, let us know if this was helpful, and we will see you on the next episode.